Alright, I guess I'll do a vlog. We're flying, baby. It's Friday night. Look at this sky. I mean, look at it. It is a beautiful, beautiful June 24th. Yesterday was June 23rd. And 1 year ago yesterday, I was sitting at home with my laptop looking at pictures of Harleys that I took years earlier, like 8 years earlier, at the dealer when I was there with some friends. Just drooling, like looking at these bikes wondering, will I ever get a motorcycle? I would do that when I would like be discouraged and down and basically depressed, and you know, I'd look at them and I'd put it away and just move on. But last year something different happened. Last year I was like, instead of one day, it was like, okay, how do I actually do this? And so that kind of sent me off on a little journey of what are the different model Harleys. One of the first things I did was look up this one that I thought was like the most amazing bike. Turned out to be an FXD SE2, which is a Screaming Eagle anniversary edition, 110 engine. I think it's like a $25,000 bike, you know. Just absolutely stunning paint job. Anyway, I found out what that one is after a couple days of trying to identify it. But that's when it began. You know, me looking into how do I actually do this, going to the Pennsylvania website and learning about getting a permit, and then how do I get a license, and how much is insurance, and how much are bikes, and you know, what bikes are there even available, and what models made sense for me. The reason why I know exactly when this happened, I remember it quite vividly, but I know the date because it was my birthday. And it was just a coincidence, I think, but I was just, you know, it was the beginning of summer, and I really needed something to do. So that was where it started, and it went quick. It's a year later. I've done about 8,500 miles on my Sportster over the last 11 months or so, and it is, I'm glad I did it. I mean, it's exactly what I needed. And, you know, a day like today is just a perfect example. You know, I got up this morning and I just, you know, it was a bike day. Threw a couple things in my bag, suited up, rode to Arc with my Harley. You know, I've probably done it about 40 or 50 times now. Totally different than driving a car. And I went down to the dealer today just to get a little incidental part for my bike. So cool, just riding to the dealer on your motorcycle, you know, compared to the first few times I went there to look at bikes. You know, I'm pulling in my Hyundai, and it's just really a neat experience. So what an enjoyable, you know, thing. Today, the end of the day, just, you know, okay, time to go home, getting on my bike. And you know, how it all came about, I guess it started with something that was basically a fantasy or a dream. It was never really a reality in my mind over several decades. But then, you know, things happen in life, and I got to a point and I realized I'm ready to do this. So I'm glad that I didn't hit any walls and, you know, get turned off and realize, nah, I can't do it. You know, it's very achievable, very doable. You just have to educate yourself and be smart, make good choices about not only what to ride, but how to ride, and you know, how to protect yourself, and what education you will get, and all that. So I did all that, and it never really ends. You know, the education, the journey, learning more about riding, about the bike itself, fixing things on it, or upgrading things. It's just one big package of something fun to do for me. You know, not for everybody, I guess. But so anyway, you know, a year ago, when I think of where I was, just felt like it was so out of reach to be able to get here. But I have a super supportive wife and a lot of other things that just kind of fell into place, or things that I made happen, you know. And so I guess if somebody's watching this and wants to get into riding, but it just seems so out of reach, well, you know, it's just one thing at a time. You know, I started out taking the rider course before I even had a bike. They give you a bike, and I knew right then and there, you know, what it felt like to be on a motorcycle, how to, you know, learn how to use a clutch, and I just knew this was something that was going to be good for me. So as I looked into what it would take, the first thing that came to the fore was the requirements of the state where I live, Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, you can get a permit after taking a written, or actually computer test. And so, you know, you download the book, you study it, you go to the driver's license center, you take the little computer test, and if you pass it, you now have a permit. Of course, I couldn't do anything with the permit because I didn't have a bike. In Pennsylvania, if you take the MSF class and you pass it, they automatically give you a license, which was really cool. So I did sign up for the MSF class. That allowed me to get on a bike. And the class is a 2-week process. 2 classroom sessions, 2 days riding on the parking lot, which they call the range. I knew, you know, I knew this was what I wanted to do. But during those 2 weeks, there was a very intense search for motorcycles. So, you know, there was that side of it. Getting the permit, getting insurance was another issue. So I had to figure that all out. As far as bikes go, you know, I'd originally set my sights on something higher. I really thought I wanted a lowrider, which is about 100 pounds more than the Sportster that I have. And I thought I wanted that because of the amount of highway riding I do. I felt it would be more comfortable, and it probably would be. But I've got my Sportster upgraded, so it's actually fine on the highway. But it was just a little too expensive to go that route. You know, more expensive by about 25-30%. I mean, it wasn't insignificant. So I revised my sights downward a bit. Ended up, you know, not appreciating the Sportster originally, but let me tell you, man, the Sportster, the 1200 engine, yeah, that's a motorcycle. I don't care what anyone says. This thing is a motorcycle. I mean, it's 500 and it's almost 600 pounds when you put the fluids in it. And it moves. I mean, 1200 cc's. This thing moves. So no issues at all there on my part about underbuying. In fact, a lot of people would say it was overbuying for a first bike, but it worked out okay for me. So, you know, the process, find out what you have to do legally to actually purchase, insure, and be able to ride a motorcycle. Then choose the kind of bike you want, you know, cruiser, sport bike, whatever. Lots of people say get a small one, 250cc, something like that. And it all depends on, you know, what you think you're capable of. My training bike was 500cc Buell Blast. That's a small motorcycle. You know, I would have been ready to move on after a month, probably less than a month, with that bike. When I got this Sportster, yeah, it took me a few weeks to get comfortable with it, so I didn't go on long trips. I mean, I rode around in my community, then I slowly ventured out onto state roads, and, you know, once I got my bearings, I ride further and keep developing my skills. So that's what you have to do. There's lots of things to practice. But that's kind of the overview of the process. And once I did all that, you know, there I was. I was now a motorcycle rider. So much more to sell, but that's kind of the high level view of it. So I am enjoying it, and highly recommend it. It is a great reliever of stress. And you know, they have this little comic, this little joke that you don't see motorcycle parked outside the psychiatrist's office. And my little add-on to that is, unless it belongs to the psychiatrist, because having an outlet like this can do wonders for your mental state. So I could definitely recommend it on medical grounds as well. Well, I guess that's it for this one. I hope everybody's well. Until next time.